So when we take this back also to thinking about future-proofing the privacy program and thinking about how AI is folding in on the healthcare side, when you start to think about your AI risk assessments and even predating that, your AI use case assessments, really start to think about that information collection in light of not only AI, but also your privacy program and also other kinds of federal regs or best practices that would be out there if you are fully square within the sights of something like HIPAA, where you are a covered entity or a business associate. Or again, if you are in that sort of gray area that these state laws are attempting to govern, which would be apps and platforms and solutions that collect health data that is not defined as PHI and that does not render you as a business associate or covered entity. So something that I'm sure we don't need to preach to the group is how narrow those definitions are. So many more organizations really do collect health data than would be PHI or covered. And so when you think about how you're going to integrate in AI and how you're going to evaluate to make sure that you are able to actually, I would say, sort of prove your operationalization against the pyramid here on Marco's slide, is really thinking about how you're going to identify and measure risk and be able to maintain that line of sight on the risk, because it is probably going to rise and fall depending upon how the AI model itself starts to evolve, depending upon data that you may, as Marco is indicating, some data you might need to collect up front, but it might not be collected in perpetuity. So it might be data that's then subsequently not needed. So really, when you're thinking about what to do here, it's a drum that I'm going to beat a few more times before we end the call, I promise. Data mapping, really understanding what is happening with respect to your processing, and then thinking about those PIAs or DPIAs or whatever side of AI impact assessment. There's new acronyms galore with respect to that. But when you're thinking about the assessments that you're building, do not think of them as point in time, dusty, almost, virtual, but nonetheless sort of like paper things where you have filled it out and it is filed and it is put on a shelf and forgotten about, because it's too dynamic. And there are too many different places that are going to attempt to govern the data processing operations, including within an organization in terms of your information security team, your operations team, your C-suite, and even above that, odds are good, your board of directors. So there's too many different slices and views from too many audiences to have this be a static type of program component. And so I think that's really something that is going to fall heavily on privacy teams who have by and large inherited AI governance, to think about how it is that you're going to be able to identify, but then really sort of actively track and keep an eye on when it comes to risk, and specifically when it comes to how data is being used within the AI paradigm.